Well, change the world with creativity. I absolutely have no intention in changing the world, to be honest. And it's because I've always thought about changing the world, but as I grow older, I think it's, I don't know, at least for me, it's pointless. And also, like, if I want to change something like the world, what the world means. Is it my city? Is it my neighborhood? Is it my building? And now that I live between two countries, which country? Is it my planet? Is it my solar system? I have no idea. And finally, creativity. I'm not a big fan of this word. I don't really know what it means, and I think that it's often misunderstood with many things. These are like a lot of topics to cover in only 20 minutes, so I decided to break it into 3 simple chapters to try to cover it up. So, first chapter, like myself. One of the things that I love about where I am in life right now is that when people come to me and ask me, what do you do? And Mustafa and I'll say, I don't know. I'll be a little bit confused, and this is by intention, actually. What I really like about what I do is that it doesn't have a label at that point. It's like me trying to push against the world, of trying to enforce some form of identity on me. And I think this is like very, very important to be able to find myself in this chaotic world. This probably started since my childhood. Like, my dad was a Marine captain, and he spent most of the time on ships, like on traveling. And when he came back, he'll tell me all of these nice stories that I truly remember, and about worlds and about things that I've never seen and things that I'm not sure if I'll ever see. This kind of formed a little bit of a rebellious act in me. And then later, on my late teens, I started to read for Albert Camus, and then this motto stuck with me, which is, the only way to deal with an unfree world is to become absolutely free, that your existence is an act of rebellion itself. Over the past 15 years, I worked in so many disciplines that are related to design and architecture. And later, between 2019 and 2022, I worked as a computational design in construction, a job that is not creative at all. I was so under a lot of pressure to respond to clients' nonsensical requests and parameters that just drove me crazy. And then, one summer evening in 2022, I stumbled upon generative AI, and I was like a maniac, trying to do everything with it, trying to mix a lot of things with it. And I just didn't question a lot. I was just exploring. It felt like I'm venturing into an uncharted territory, like a place that I've never been before, or maybe few have ever been. It's something that also resonated with a lot of people around the world. And if you have LinkedIn or Instagram and you see your feed flooded with images like these, know that I'm kind of responsible a little bit about it, and I'm sorry about it if it bothers you. Sometimes it bothers me too. But all I did was that really creative, like what creativity really means. Since I was young, I came to the realization that novelty does not exist, at least as how I understood it. I don't believe that we as human beings can create something out of nothing. The first law in thermodynamics is that energy could not be produced, nor it could be decayed. And I think our role as human beings in this big universe is just to observe and make new connections of some stuff that already exists. Like if you want to build a tree house, you have to see a house. You have to see a tree to be able to perceive like what a tree house means. And in that realm, I think about myself as a medium that facilitates the coming together of different ideas. And I just want to reveal something else, something that's already there, but I just haven't discovered it yet. I think we live in a world of discovery and accumulation, but not necessarily a world that we need to introduce something that is new. I don't think like new exists. With that in mind, I've tried to pursue all of these new mixes, and AI was really good at that. After all, it has a lot of our documented history, and we can really navigate through it really quickly and really easily with like the tools available now. And it just helped me to cover many visual explorations in a very short time. And now, between that and between social media and globalization now, the humanity has produced like large amount of concepts over the past 2 years that has bypassed anything that we've ever witnessed in our recorded history. Again, could be good, could be bad, it just is. With every new tool that I try to explore, my inspirations expand beyond geometry or abstraction, the things that I trained on as an architect. I still see this like a way of trying to capture intangible elements on a visual basis using AI is a good use of this technology. This technology could be used broadly on anything. Everybody's using it now. But the true power of this technology, in my opinion, is not to reiterate on something that's already there, but to break the boundaries of our understanding of what visual representation really means. But again, what is beautiful and what is art? If I'm being honest, I don't know. Like, I don't know if my work is good or bad. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I want to delete all my images and like burn all the sketches that I have on my studio. But sometimes I just love them. I just can't put a definition on it. They say beauty is in the eyes of the beholder. And I think beauty is influential, and I think it's contagious. And it's also very dynamic. And with many people finding my work beautiful or sometimes ugly, which sometimes I agree with them, I just felt the urge to find something that is personal to define beauty with, away from conformity, a new vision of beauty that's for me, that's not really generic. Not everybody should see beauty the way it is. That's my point of view. So I'm trying to find something that can more reflect my, what you call identity. But then it brings another question. What is really identity? Like, there are so many aesthetics out there. Which one should I follow? And what is kitsch? Who defines it? And should I adhere to the definition of kitsch from other people? And like, should I adhere to the socio-economical pressures that forces people to like be different people than whom they really are? After all, that's my problem with design. That's my problem with art and architecture nowadays. Most of the things that you see in the world, they are just like a capitalist weapon to make more money for some people. And I don't like that, but the world really forces you to become something and different than who you are. And now that my work is now being viewed with people, like with millions of people that I don't know, and being reiterated upon, am I really ushering the world into like aesthetic mediocrity? There is this quote that I really like, or like the saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And I often wonder, like, am I leading the world to a new hell? And with these tools, should I like gain control on them, or I just lose control, or is it something in between? That brings me to chapter 2, which is like where I am, what are my surroundings, and this is like a step into me starting to lose my egoistic sense of self that most architects have, that they think they are center of the world, and I'm trying to really get away from that. I was born and raised in Egypt, which is a place very people know for its present, but a lot of people know for its history. Like, if you talk to people, especially in the US, like, Egypt, and they'll tell you, yeah, sure, the pyramid. And generative AI is not really any different. If you go and ask a model what is Egypt, it will give you a picture of the pyramid, or like the Sphinx, or something that's basically ancient Egyptian, but nothing that kind of represents what Egypt is today. I think Egypt is one of the most interesting places there is. It's full of history that is beyond ancient Egyptian, for like the surprise of many people, including Egyptians sometimes. There are so many entangled layers of history there, And like, it's one of the silver lining of being a country that's being invaded by almost every empire in history that could reach it. But it's like a good thing because it left like a signature, or like a very interesting mix that hardly you will see anywhere in the world. These questions led like to one of my favorite series, which is called "The City is a Tram." It's like an endeavor to see my capacity to utilizing technology to capture what Alexandria means, at least to me. Think about it as it's like emotional visualization, or like visualizing an intangible present, or like an intangible beauty. I find great beauty in Alexandria that is not generic, that is unique, that you can't really sense it unless you're there. I've lived there. I was born and raised. I went to school and I got married, and most of my memories are there. And as a person who works at the edge of technology, I feel like there's an absence of like capturing this beauty in a way that is authentic or true. And one day, while I was exhibiting this series in Sharjah in the UAE, a person approached me. I didn't know him. He didn't know me. He didn't know my name. And he just went on. He shook my hand, and he told me, "Are you also away from home? I just like went into your gallery because it reminded me of my home. I didn't go back home for like 10 years or so." And this person is not Egyptian. Like, we don't know each other, but we connected. We connected on a level that is very, very unique. And it's just like from seeing pictures, he knew that I was away from home. And I understood immediately what he felt, even though I didn't know him. And for me, that means everything. Maybe looking back at art and design narrative can inform our current design preferences, like making something that's more relevant to the history and the present. Like in this example, like when you think about ancient Egyptian architecture, you think about hieroglyphs, right? My connection with hieroglyphs is like similar to my understanding of the German language. I can barely understand both. And trying to just like reiterate that will eventually like create a kitsch, something that I really don't want and I don't really understand. How can I capture that essence without like being that kitsch? So what if we try to replace hieroglyphs with modern Egyptian memes, like things that can tell the stories of their modern days? Like there's a lot of details here, like somebody parked his car on the second floor, or people that might wait for something, and you never know. You can see, if you look closely at this picture, you'll see a lot of deformations. And people often come to ask me, "Hey, why don't you fix these deformations? Why don't you fix like the face of this person, like how a certain body part is being represented?" And I always say no. I love them the way they are. Because, first of all, these deformations are like a documentation of the current status of what the AI can do and what it can do now. And I like my work to be some form of a record to the abilities of its time. But also, these deformation adds to the value of the whole picture. It's like a signature that this was made by AI at a point. It's something that we should like keep with us. It's something that we should show. Blending different parts of history in an informal and chaotic way can eventually enrich our current design vocabulary, a vocabulary that neither is modern nor ancient, but simply exists. Somehow it articulates an ambiguous Egyptian identity that no one can precisely define. Think about it as hallucinations, or like a hypnagogia. It's like looking at history in a nonlinear way, highlighting elements and meanings that are lost in the wind of an industrialized modernity. It's like taking a breath from the minimalist, super-functional march of the world that the world has been over the past century. And now I want to leave you with this 1-minute video that's a visual representation of a poem by Salah Jahin and a song by Firqat al-Masrin. It's called الشوارع حواديت.
الشارع ده كنا ساكنين فيه زمان كل يوم يضيق زيادة عن مكان أصبح الآن
comes chapter 3. When I was younger, I used to read a lot for Friedrich Nietzsche and Albert Camus and George Orwell, and that made me don't like humanity really much. I thought like humanity could be the worst thing that could happen to nature or the universe. As I grew older, I definitely changed my mind. I think that human consciousness is one of the most magical and most beautiful things that have emerged in the universe. The universe has a lot of beautiful things. It has like the galaxies, the stars, black holes. There are things that's happening on the quantum realm. But like, as we know, we are the only beings that are able to experience that and translate that into something. Call it language, call it knowledge, call it science, whatever. And then we can bypass that to other. But the most important thing that I like about humanity is our ability to reach out to each other, to understand each other, and to become something that is more than just us. But to observe the world and to reach out to the world is a big responsibility. And we have to be brave to say things as we see them and not be swayed by life at what it has to offer. Like, again, George Orwell, one of my favorite writers, saying, like he said that, like, telling the truth can be a revolutionary act in itself. It went really well with my rebellious nature, obviously. And I think it's really, really important to find your way in this world that could blind you with many things, like, again, like what you say, beauty. So now, as you observe the world, you have a responsibility to say things as you see them. And the way that I see it, like being an architect and fully immersed into like a reality of the world that's really chaotic, and to observe connections of our built environment and how most people actually live their lives, is very important. Like in school, you always learn about the designs of Zaha Hadid, you always learn about the designs of Frank Gehry or like Anthony Gaudi, but you don't really go into the street or hardly would go and see like, places that aren't like architecturally appealing to most people. These places have, in my opinion, again, they are just beautiful, and we can harness a lot of this beauty if we just look at them in a different way. And these problems of chaotic places or whatever you want to call them, it's not a problem that's like you can only find in like third world countries. You can also find it in first world countries, like in California, my second home or my first home. I don't know exactly now what it is, but like you can see people living in Malibu off the coast of the Pacific Ocean, driving Ferraris, just like in the middle of endless tens of homeless people. And there's something very wrong about like this contrast. And for me, it's just like, it's really interesting. I'm not really trying to change the world. I'm not Che Guevara, and I'm not after like taking millions of dollars from billionaires to just give it to the poor. But I think the observation of our reality, of our built environment, is really important. Because we can eventually, at the very least, if we're not going to change that, maybe we can utilize these new visual vocabularies into our work, into our design, that can reflect a truthful present instead of thinking about a fancy utopia that only serves the few but not everybody. The fact is, I don't know what creativity is, and I don't know what beauty is, and I don't want to lead anybody to think about anything. Like, I can't even ask my 5-year-old kid not to run naked in the middle of the house. How can I change the world? It doesn't make sense. My experience, I limited myself. And to have a global demand that the world has to confirm into a certain perspective doesn't make sense to me anymore. And I don't think like I'm not original. All I know is that I'm a human and I'm trying to be truthful and like trying to be, I don't know, as Charles have said it, like be better for the world, not in the world. أملك في الإنسانية يبدأ بتحقيق أملها فيك. Your hope in humanity begins with realizing humanity's hope in you. Like, in the end, I think like this is my ground motto. I think that we're facing a lot of challenges like AI, global warming, wars, where ideas can sway conformity behind unilateral perspectives. And the only single idea that can ground me is that my ability to try to understand the world and reflect on it as a part of a greater whole. I find myself and my work is just a continuation of a lot of people. Like this intangible connection that I have with people that I've never met, people that died several years before I was born, people that didn't speak the same language. But I like to be part of some things that they have started. Things that had to do with beauty, things that had to do with authenticity, of how to they rebelled against a world that they didn't really believe in. And that's lead me to one final idea about creativity, is that creation is not inherently a human trait. The obvious human traits are empathy and observation, analyzing connections, most importantly, our intangible connections to everyone and everything. One that is more authentic, one that is less capitalist and less materialistic, and one that is better, for better or worse, more human. So, again, instead of trying to change the world with creativity, I would rather just become better with empathy, just to try to realize my humanity's hope in me. Thank you very much.